Welcome to the Print Political Adda. I am Sourav Barman. I am joined by Sharan, Poovanna, our Karnataka correspondent and our in-house expert on all things Karnataka and beyond. We are also delighted to have Professor Narayana A, who teaches political philosophy and Indian politics, law and governance at the Azim Premji University. He is joining us from Bangalore as well. The leadership question in Karnataka has once again flared up with some voices within the Congress pitching for Deputy CM Shivkumar, DK Shivakumar, to take over as the Chief Minister of the state. Now, this tussle has also played out in the past, several times in the past, ever since the Congress formed government in Karnataka in 2023. Now, yesterday, Mr. Siddaramaiah, who was in Delhi, asserted that there is no vacancy for the CM's chair. And he also very interestingly added that he will also lead the Congress during the next assembly polls, which is due in 2028. A couple of minutes ago, DK Shivakumar, who returned to Bangalore from Delhi, he was responding to this particular statement when a group of reporters asked him about it. And his response was also very interesting. He said, "I don't want to comment on the CM statements. And he has every right to make any statement that he desires. And being the party president, I have been given the responsibility to build the party." This is what the Deputy CM said. So what one could clearly see that he was not very pleased with what the CM said yesterday during his visit in Delhi. And if both of you can share, your reading of the current situation. Professor Narayana, you can go first.
So thanks, Sourav and Sharan, for inviting me to this program. This discussion has been going on for some time. So let me put it like this. See, this whole question of what we call political dissidence, which is a situation in which an incumbent chief minister is challenged by a rival leader, has not been new to Karnataka. Every party has faced this problem, be it Janata Dal or Janata Party, BJP, or the Congress. But in the case of the Congress, at least two previous governments, one headed by Mr. Siddaramaiah himself and another headed by Mr. SM Krishna. These two governments, they lasted for 5 years without any such dissidence problem. It has come back to the Congress once again. Now, there are two ways of looking at it. One, some people would say that this is a mark of instability. I wouldn't see it entirely like that. It is also a sign of a party being very democratic. That point will come to later, but looking into the present situation, there is a difference. And that difference is, in the past, whenever a rival leader challenged a sitting chief minister, it was on the grounds that a majority of the MLAs have lost confidence in the leader. This time it is not like that. Mr. Shivakumar is claiming his share in power as part of an agreement which nobody knows whether exists or not. Now, that is why the current situation seems to be a little interesting. Now, it appears from all the credible accounts that such a clear agreement does not exist. And it also appears that a majority of MLAs are backing Mr. Siddaramaiah. Now, therefore, in the tussle, if at all there is a tussle, as I mentioned earlier, this tussle is to be seen slightly differently. In the tussle, for the moment, it appears that advantage is to Siddaramaiah. So this is where things stand. And now Mr. Shivakumar is a loyal leader. I have not seen anyone more loyal in Congress than Mr. Shivakumar for a long time, right? So he is not someone who would create the same kind of problem to the party and the chief minister, even if he is denied this position, like many dissident leaders in the past had created. So that also in a way goes to the advantage of Mr. Siddaramaiah. This is what I read the current situation as. He, of course, is an aspirant. He wants the position because he thinks, Mr. Shivakumar thinks that he contributed to the victory of the party in 2023 as Mr. Siddaramaiah did. Now, this is a debatable point. We can debate if you would like to later. But he thinks that he is claiming his rightful share in power, but he is not trying to unseat the chief minister in the same way as dissidents in the past did.
Right. Sharan, if you can,
Yeah.
can talk about how the numbers are stacked, exactly. Now, does Mr. Shivakumar have enough MLAs backing him at all?
See, sort of, it's difficult to sort of quantify which MLA would support, which leader, because both of them are from the Congress party. But yes, in terms of visibility, there appears to be more MLAs in overtly supporting Siddaramaiah as opposed to DK Shivakumar. If you just see, statements being made in the last couple of years, some of them saying that Siddaramaiah will continue as as CM for the next 5 years, saying that there is no, sort of 50-50 agreement between in leadership changes here in Karnataka. So going just by that metric, it seems like Siddaramaiah definitely has more vocal support for him to continue in power, and DK does not have this. But then again, this is not to say that DK may not have support, because let's say if the High Command were to actually, take that step and announce that DK will replace Siddaramaiah at some point, then it's not like all of these, a lot of these MLAs will still sit on the wall or still side a certain leader. All of that remains to be seen, of course, but it's difficult to quantify as to how many numbers claim to support Siddaramaiah and how many numbers support DK Shivakumar. Now, in fact, Siddaramaiah did make this statement that DK has, DK Shivakumar does not have enough MLAs supporting him. Now, I don't know where he gets that number from, because in 2023, when the intense negotiations for the chief minister's post itself was going on, there were reports that, about 60-70 MLAs had, said, put this one in favor of Shivakumar, and similar claims were being made from the Siddaramaiah camp, though eventually Siddaramaiah was made the chief minister. So this number game keeps going on depending on who you ask in Karnataka.
You mentioned the mood of the High Command. Now, both of them were here, and they also sought the appointment of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Now, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, despite being in Delhi, did not actually meet them. He had a meeting with the state unit leaders of Gujarat, but both had to return to Bangalore empty-handed. They did not have the audience with Mr. Rahul Gandhi, the leader of the opposition, and the de facto, the face of the Congress party. Now, coming back to this very interesting aspect that Professor Narayana raised, by responding to the previous question, if we go back to the 2023 assembly polls, if one were to credit the victory to one leader, should it be Mr. Siddaramaiah or should it be Mr. DK Shivakumar? Who contributed more?
But, the question of MLA support is one thing. Now, the party should also consider what is that the party is going to gain and what is that the party is going to lose. Should there be a leadership change? I think this is the calculation which is going on. And at the moment, if Mr. Shivakumar is going to replace Mr. Siddaramaiah, what is that the Congress is going to gain? Apart from, it being an exercise of thanksgiving, right? Returning him something for the favors that he did for the party. We'll come to that part later again. But what is that the party is going to get? Would the party lose the support of Vocaligas? Now, the Vocaliga support to the Congress in itself is questionable, and the kind of support of Vocaligas that Shivakumar can get for the Congress is also questionable. Nevertheless, in case he is not going to be made the chief minister, there will be some erosion of Vocaliga support, whatever exists there, for the Congress. But what the Congress is going to retain in terms of Vocaliga support by making him the chief minister is smaller when compared to possibly what the party is going to lose in terms of the support of SC/STs and OBCs possibly, and Kurubas who outnumber Vokkaligas, and the Kurubas support, because of Siddaramaiah, the Congress in much larger number than Vokkaligas too, right? So, I think this cost benefit analysis is going on very, very, minutely. And this is also one of the factors which might prevent the High Command from taking a decision in favor of Mr. Shivakumar. That's number one. Number two, going back to 2023, you asked the question, so who contributed what? Who was responsible for the victory more than the other? I would say that was a time. Anyway, the people in Karnataka were fed up with the previous government, and they were in a mood to bring the Congress back to power. Now, therefore, to a large extent, these two people happen to be there, and but we certainly should not underestimate their importance. Siddaramaiah, for the purpose of the Congress and in Karnataka politics today, is the only mass leader, and because he happens to be a mass leader, we can safely say that in terms of numbers, in terms of votes that the party could secure in 2023, was largely because of Mr. Siddaramaiah, and everybody agrees with that. And what is the credit which is being given to Shivakumar? The credit that is being given to him, one, is an organization man. In the sense, he could organize the party better than anyone else. Second, he is the party's money bag. Now, this is being suggested in hush, but everybody agrees that he has money, and he's one who can go out of his way to spend money for the party. Now, that was in 2023. But let us come to 2025 now. Now the party has been in power for 2 years, and it is going to be in power for, let us say, by the time next election is there, party will be in power hopefully for 5 years. And then the financial position of the party would be certainly different from the financial position of the party in 2023. So should the party depend solely on one individual for resources is one question. Second, the whole question of organization. I'm not too sure. I don't know. I would like to hear from Sharan. This whole issue of Shivakumar being the organization person, I don't see the Congress organization in a great shape, even after Mr. Shivakumar took over, and he has been at the helm of affairs for such a long time. Even now, at the booth level, the party is very weak, and I don't see any systematic effort being made in order to strengthen the party at the booth level. I don't see any systematic effort to spread the ideology of the party or train the party cadres in party ideology. Nothing of this sort has been happening. So I'm not too sure about this organizational strength claim that has been made by Shivakumar's side or those who see it as its strength.
Sharan? Shivakumar, the organization man, how much of that is hype and how much of that is reality?
See, at the level of the state, he's at least, in the past we've seen in the soon after the 2018 elections, we saw him as this troubleshooter swooping in, getting MLAs who were hiding here and there into the assembly and on the opposition benches in order to defeat Yediyurappa. We've seen all of those efforts of Shivakumar. He has a very large network, of course. But whether elections are won only because of Shivakumar or if he's the man, I mean, when he goes, there's, a lot of excitement amongst youngsters. All of this, yes, there is some of it on social media, definitely. There is a perception that he does a lot for the organization, but his own party leaders have questioned this. I remember Mr. M.B. Patil stating that Shivakumar is not the only person to whom you can credit this entire 135 seats to. There are other people who worked in other parts of the state as well. And he was KPCC president, of course, by that extension, he does get the credit, but he's not the sole person for this. And another key metric of whether they are a grassroots, their cadre and everything has been revived after Shivakumar, because now I think he's been there since COVID, a little just after COVID, he's been the president. So the clear metric of whether he's an actual organization man will come up if the Taluk Panchayat and Zilla Panchayat and other elections are held. So there'll be a clear metric as to, his entire organizational ability. Till what level has it seeped down to, or is it only at the surface MLA level and above, and nothing below that? So that's something we'll have to see.
Also, when you walk the power corridors of Bangalore, and how much of this internal resonance has really affected governance in the state?
See, Mr. Shivakumar is a go-getter, right? So, in situations that Sharan described, that there is a crisis, and you have to win over MLAs, you have to harbor some MLAs from some other state, in some hotel, etc., etc. These are the things that he is very good at. But you have to admit that in 2019, right, when BJP engineered a sort of defection in the Congress and JD ranks, Shivakumar tried his best, but then he could not save the government, right? So that is also there. Now, I think whether someone who is adding a state unit of the party, right, is an organizational man, to me, is borne out by the fact that the party is in good shape, in the sense the party has its organization very strong from the state level to the booth level, right? And the party is very vocal in its own defense in the face of attacks made on its leaders and on its government by the opposition rank, and neither is happening, right? The narrative game, right? In the narrative game, BJP is far ahead of the Congress, even for the things that they have done. So even when they are successful in doing certain things, the publicity that they get is very negative, because the BJP is very vocal, and we do not see such kind of vocal cord being exercised by the Congress ranks in defense of the party.
No, since we're just discussing Mr. Siddaramaiah's enduring popular appeal, especially among the Dalits, the backward classes, and minorities, but what about his grip on governance? Has this entire internal dissonance, has it also affected governance? Has that been the case? What about his image as an administrator? Sharan, if you can come in first.
Okay, so Sharan, you are taking the question, or should I answer?
First, I think Sharan can come in. Huh?
I'll just briefly report on what has been happening. So yes, compared to the 2013 to 2018 Siddaramaiah, I mean, this is going by his own loyalist sort of statements. He's not the same Siddaramaiah. He does not have the same grip on governance, and governance definitely has taken a hit. This government has relied quite heavily on the guarantees alone, but there hasn't been much traction beyond that. At least that's the narrative, right? So there are, of course, in fact, Professor Narayana himself, in an earlier report that we quoted, has given us some sort of this one on, giving land rights. There are quite a few things happening, but and to put it in the words of Mr. Narayana, they really are very poor at communicating their achievements, but everything else tends to come out. But if that being the case, yes, there are mounting allegations of corruption against Siddaramaiah. Siddaramaiah seems far more, aware and conscious of what is happening around, conscious of the things that are happening to him, including allegations of corruption, including, MLAs and others, sort of voicing their concerns out. In the 2013-18, we rarely saw any sort of dissidents. It was, one or two voices here and there, but not in the sort of magnitude that's happening right now. And yes, if you see what's happening in Bangalore, that he's given up control almost to Shivakumar, if you see what's happening in other parts of the state. So there are multiple things that have gone wrong in terms of governance, at least in recent times and reports.
What do you mean when you say that he has given up control to Mr. Shivakumar in Bangalore?
Meaning in the sense that one of the 2 or 3 conditions that we know of that Shivakumar put before the High Command when he conceded the Chief Minister's chair was to get the Bangalore Development Ministry. The other is the irrigation ministry, and that he'll be the only deputy chief minister, and he will continue to serve as KPCC chief. Now, KPCC chief and others are okay, but Bangalore in charge ministry is quite important, because if you see the previous government, that's Yediyurappa and Bommai, both chief ministers itself held on to this, because their minister, I mean, the party would implode if they give it to one minister and not another minister. So in this case, Bangalore development is one of the most, it's, how do I say, it's most cash rich sort of portfolio, and Shivakumar has sole control over it. If you look at the budget, every proposal that Shivakumar has, every sort of vanity project that he has, the tunnel road or skydex or any beautification project costing thousands and thousands of crores, everything Shivakumar is taking a call, and Siddaramaiah seems to be conceding to some of these demands, because there are much bigger projects and other things that require attention. But Bangalore is getting all of the attention right now, and we can safely assume that it's because Shivakumar is getting a lot of the control in his hands. Mr. Narayana, if you would like to say so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about governance, there are two approaches to to assess it. One, perception of governance, another is governance on the ground, right? Now, the perception of the governance record of this government has certainly not been good, for two reasons. One reason is that what Sharan has referred to earlier. When there is no central command to government, right, the perception of governance will not be good. Now, Siddaramaiah used to be that central command in his first term between 2013 and 2018, which is now, because now it is known that there are two centers of power. Now, when a government has two centers of power, certainly the perception will be affected. The image of the government will be affected. So this has been happening. The second thing that has affected the image or the perception of governance of this government is this entire publicity, negative publicity against the guarantee programs. Now, that has taken away a lot of positive publicity for this government. It has been getting big brats on this count from everywhere. Now, my own impression is slightly different. My impression is when it comes to corruption, right? I think we have to keep corruption out of any analysis of governance in India today. Whether we are assessing the union government for its performance, whether we are assessing the performance of any state government in India today, I think corruption is a constant. We have to keep it aside. Because I don't think anyone's record in corruption is better than anyone else's. Okay, so let us keep corruption aside. How do you manage the perception around corruption is the question, but that's a different thing. Now, when it comes to, therefore, performance minus this corruption, right? We have two metrics to assess it. One, whether this government's record in the first 2 years is better or worse when compared to the first 2 years of the previous government. Previous government of the BJP and the previous government of Siddaramaiah between 2013 and 2018. I would say that the first 2 years of this government or the performance of this government for the first 2 years in office has been much better than the first 2 years of performance of Siddaramaiah's own government in 2013 and the BJP government which came to power in 2019. Okay, and why am I saying so? I am saying so because guarantees, although account for something like 14% of the total budget, which is in absolute terms around 50,000 crore rupees a year, is certainly not a wasteful expenditure as the critics are claiming. It is a meaningful welfare expenditure, and if only one had traveled across Karnataka in 2023 or on the eve of 2023 elections, one would have realized the importance of this massive expenditure. Right? Initially, everybody thought that it was a political ploy, and the Congress somehow wanted to come to power. That's the reason they are announcing this dole outs, etc., etc. That's true. The Congress did not announce it, keeping or studying the situation on the ground very well. But by accident or accidentally, these schemes were required given the kind of distress that the people were going through in 2023, and I think the need for these schemes is equally felt in rural and urban Karnataka even now. So I wouldn't say that this is something that the government should be criticized. Now the question is, because of the outgo of this 50,000 crore rupees, has other kind of so-called development expenditure has come down. Now here again we have to make a comparison. No one has made that comparison, but the other way of putting this question or finding an answer to this question is like this: whether allocation for any key function has decreased. To the extent that I could study from the media reports, and because I have not seen any academic reports, I haven't seen any official reports, and I have not done any study myself. So in the absence of any better reliable sources, if you go by the media reports and if you go by what the government has been claiming, and the kind of public sentiments that you can perceive around, right? There has not been any steep decline in the allocation of resources to any important portfolio, be it education, be it urban development, be it rural development, or anything that is essential to keep the system going. Now, this is the only government which has recently recruited around a few thousand power karmikas. And these power karmikas have been working on ad hoc basis for decades together, right? And none of the previous governments, which did not do this kind of welfare spending, had the resources to regularize them. But this government has regularized, and this government has regularized the land ownership of thousands and thousands of people in rural Karnataka, and none of the previous governments did it, right? And this government is on a recruitment spree of police personnel and the teachers, who constitute by far the largest chunk of bureaucracy in any state, right? And the previous governments did not do it despite the absence of guarantee schemes and entailing or concomitant expenditure. So therefore, I think the question here is whether because of the guarantees, the development has been affected. My answer, at least at this stage, no, it has not happened. So, but perception-wise, this government has not been doing well for the two reasons that I have said, because there is no central command. Second, there has been a lot of negative publicity around the guarantee schemes. And every time one spots a pothole, which has been a constant, all through for decades, now people say that, look here, there is a pothole because of the guarantee schemes. Every time there has been some hold up of some contractor's bill, people will say that, look here, this government has gone bankrupt. But contractors' bill getting delayed has been a constant again. It has happened all through Karnataka's history. I remember in the past, there were times when teachers and police personnel were not paid salaries for months together. It has not happened, at least in the last 2 years. I do not know what is going to happen in the next 3 years. So therefore, I think there is a lot of difference here between the perception of government and the perception on the ground.
But perception plays a big role in politics. I mean, we have seen the role of perception several times.
That is something this government has failed to manage miserably. And that said, there are certain weak spots. Sorry, Sharan, I'll take a couple of more minutes. One on the question of managing communalism in the state, right? This is a government which came to power promising peace in communally disturbed parts of this state, but so far the record has been grossly inadequate. And the kind of response coming from the Home Minister of the state every time there was a very serious instance is very, very pathetic. There is not even a confidence building effort except for certain measures that they have taken very recently in coastal Karnataka by setting up some kind of special action force to deal with hate speech and communal problems. But to my mind, the problem of communalism in Karnataka is so serious that a special action force, police force, is not adequate. Something more needs to be done both by the government and the party, and that is not something which is happening. Second, the government has not been conducting elections to the local bodies, a point that Sharan mentioned earlier. There is no reason why they should delay it further. Going by the history of these elections, if the elections are to be held in the first 2.5 years of any government's term, right, the advantage is always to the ruling party. If the elections are to be held toward the end of the term, the party is likely to lose. The likelihood of the ruling party losing is higher, and that is going to send a very bad signal for the party in terms of facing the next assembly elections. So I know why Congress has not been acting decisively on both communal front and in holding elections to local bodies in Karnataka.
In a way, the Congress has
But
also let down
the performance is not
voters.
generally judged on these things. Yeah.
So
Okay.
just taking the perception, point of perception forward. Now, in this last few days or months that, this little power tussle struggle that we're seeing, who do you think, in terms of perception alone, we don't know what's happening in the background, of course, who do you think has Siddaramaiah emerged on top as a stronger, holding on to his chair tighter and thwarting away all attempts, or has Shivakumar actually made some sort of headway into getting closer to his, one elusive dream?
Um, I think, in so far as the question of chief minister's chair is concerned, I don't think Shivakumar has moved an inch forward, or Siddaramaiah has moved an inch backward. So that problem stays. But because we are discussing perception here, again going by the past record of governments in Karnataka, you know, despite putting up the best performance, whenever the party in power faced serious problem of dissidence, or whenever there has been a tussle on the question of who should become the chief minister, right, the performance played no role in deciding the people's perception of the government, right? So take the example of Janata Dal government between 1994 and 1999. To this day, I think those 5 years were one of the best periods in terms of governance in Karnataka's history. But that party lost terribly in 1999. So much so that the party doesn't exist in the same form that it ruled between 1994 and 1999. So, this tussle, whether it is real, whether it is, exaggerated or whatever, as long as it stays, no matter how much the government does in terms of performance, it is not going to cut any ice with the public. What will overshadow the performance, whether it is there or not there, is the question of this tussle. Dissidence has played a very negative role in deciding the performance of the parties in power in the next elections.
Now, Professor Narayana, one last question from me, and Sharan can take over. What does it say about the Congress party that its most popular face in the state, the most popular, the biggest leader of Congress party in Karnataka, is someone who was not even in the party till 2006? He came to Congress in 2006. He was in Janata Dal. What about the next generation of Congress leaders? Who are the leaders whose popularity will cut across, all these caste and class divisions?
Okay. So
What
now,
next?
there are
What's
two
the
parts to your question. One is, yeah, so there are two parts to your question. One is Mr. Siddaramaiah being the most popular face, despite is entering the Congress only a decade ago or something. That is one part. The other part is what about the second line leadership, right? Now, the first part, I think, is not something very unique to the Congress. you take any political party today, I think the most popular faces in any state are the ones which have come to those parties from some other party, right? Take the example of Assam, take the example of I don't know what are the other states, but this is something Telangana for Congress and even some other other BJP ruled states. So now, therefore, I wouldn't say that that is a big thing. Even in the past, for example, when Ramakrishna Hegde, the most charismatic leader of Karnataka, he came to Janata Dal or Janata Party, then Janata Party from the Congress. So therefore, this is not a new phenomenon. That's okay. I don't think one should perceive it as a negative of the Congress or weakness of the Congress. So the absence of a mass leader is a problem. Is a problem in all the three parties. Yediyurappa used to be, somewhat a kind of mass leader, and he is too old. Siddaramaiah is too old in the Congress, and to some extent, Kumaraswamy, whatever, to whatever extent you can call him a mass leader, he is also not very young. So now you will also see that the leaders these days, or let me put it like this, often a leader emerges after he or she holds a position of power. That is what has happened in the case of Yediyurappa. That is what has happened in the case of Kumaraswamy, and that is to an extent what has happened in the case of Siddaramaiah also. That is what to some extent has happened in the case of Devaraj Aras, one of the legendary leaders of Karnataka. There are two kinds of leaders who are mass leaders first and then become chief ministers or ministers. That's one category. Such kind of leaders are increasingly rare these days, and someone becomes minister or chief minister, someone occupies an important position of power, and from there he or she builds their leadership. That is the new pattern of leadership emergence in India. So therefore, I wouldn't say that Karnataka will see a dearth of leadership or a drought of leadership if Shivakumar becomes the chief minister, right? We do not know what image he is going to cultivate for himself once he is in a position of power. That's one. And similarly, for some reason, if someone else becomes the chief minister, he might grow as a big leader, as it has happened in the case of all these leaders who are considered to be mass leaders at present. So therefore, I think gone are the days in India when somebody becomes a mass leader and then becomes a chief minister or prime minister. This is the time when we see an ordinary looking leader becomes chief minister or prime minister and then becomes a mass leader.
So I have, and I'll try and keep it down to two questions. One, of course, is an important point that's happening now, that Congress MLAs are some of the most vocal in demanding for funds and also going public in targeting the government that they're not getting funds for developments. So if you'd like to say why, are these MLAs, hitting out at the government because there's no funds, or is there another reason as to why this is happening, sir?
Now, this has been a pernicious practice in Karnataka that every MLA would seek funds outside the budget for the so-called constituency development, right? Now, thanks to massive outgo for guarantee schemes, the government does not have that kind of money to give what is called grants to MLAs, right? Now, if you ask me, this is a practice which should have stopped anyway. Now, resource allocation in any democracy should not happen through chief ministers' grants to MLAs, right? This is anti-constitutional, anti-democratic, anti any principle of good governance. This has been allowed to go on for decades in Karnataka. In itself is something that you and you in the sense the media, and I in the sense I think I represent the academia here, should have been worried about for a long time. Now, this is a blessing in disguise in that sense. Government does not have money to give it to MLAs directly, and it has stopped. It has no doubt given rise to a lot of grumbling among MLAs, but if you ask me, it is a very good development in terms of governance, but certainly not in terms of politics for the ruling party. And if the perception of governance has been affected negatively, despite doing certain things which any government is to do, it is largely a point that we missed out earlier. It is largely because MLAs have been saying that I don't get money for development. MLAs are never given money for development. Budget allocation is made to a particular department, and then that department checks out its projects and programs, and funds and resources flow through departments, through schemes, and reach the people, not through MLAs, not through MLAs, through its pet project. So I think MLAs are right in saying that they are not getting money, and they are raising a big hue and cry against it. But if you ask me, this is good in terms of development, certainly not negative if you are interested in development.
So, in now coming back to the politics part of it, do you think, I mean, going by the statements that DK Shivakumar has been giving, or at least what Siddaramaiah has been giving, do you think DK Shivakumar has given up, or is this a temporary truce, a forced truce, or will this be how? I mean, is this what we should expect for the next 3 years of the current terms?
Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Shivakumar, to his credit, is not a typical dissident leader uh, of the kind who would want the chief minister to be ousted for him to occupy that position, right? Come whatever may. He is simply bargaining with the high command. I think for the time being, he has been told very clearly, see, these are the pros and cons, therefore you have to wait. And he has been convinced about that. But he is convinced about not, making a vociferous demand for it here and now. But I don't think he has done that. And possibly that is what has been told to him by the high command, saying that, look here, it is not a time for you to take it over. No? If you do that, these are the consequences which will follow. And since he has been convinced, he possibly has decided to look at his statement recently, such what options I have. So,
Right.
which doesn't mean that, it is end of the road for him. He would wait for certain developments to take place, and when the situation turns to his favor, I think he'll make the claim again.
And the next part,
So
sir,
some
do you
some
think?
kind of games will be played. Uh, some kind of games will go on, but these games will be very different from the usual dissident activities.
And so, lastly, now there's always, the Siddaramaiah camp at least believes that there is no leader beyond Siddaramaiah. You already mentioned this about the second rung leaders, not just here. But the same thing was said about Yediyurappa in the BJP, but the High Command did take a very strong stand in that, replaced him with Bommai. Of course, a lot of the power center continues to be with Yediyurappa, given. But will Siddaramaiah bow down, concede in the same manner, or will that lead to more problems for the Congress? In fact, this is probably one of their biggest strongholds. Will that lead to, because the late 1980s, Rajiv Gandhi removed Virendra Patil, and for many years the Congress
Yeah.
couldn't return. Now, will a similar situation happen if they do decide to go ahead and replace Siddaramaiah? because other parties seem to have done this. The Congress has burnt its hands in the past.
Okay. So you see a difference between what the BJP did and what the Congress is doing. I don't see any difference. Both the principle applied in both the situation is the same. What is the same principle? Well, the BJP replaced Yediyurappa with Bommai. Why did they replace Yediyurappa with Bommai? Bommai is a Lingayat because they did not want to sort of offend uh, the Lingayat vote bank, right? Lingayat vote bank. Uh, Now, which means the BJP did not want to lose its or weaken its primary support base, primary social base in the state. The same principle is now considered by the Congress in dealing with the current situation. Who constitutes the primary social support base of the Congress? Kurubas among the OBCs and SC/STs. Now they are going to be certainly unhappy in case Siddaramaiah is replaced, and they don't want to upset that social support base of the party. So it's the same principle, if you ask me. Now, is it one? So, you are right in saying that if the High Command chooses an alternative leader, from a different community, in the case of the BJP, it was the same community. Now, in case the Congress tries to replace Siddaramaiah with the leader of a different social background, which is Shivakumar, then there will certainly be some kind of erosion, some kind of plus and minus. For the time being, I think the High Command sees more losses. They are going to lose more than they are going to gain. But that doesn't mean that the social equation will not be altered and settled in some way in the next 3 years. It is possible still to make amends. But right now, nobody is able to foresee what is going to happen should it happen. But we should also consider another set of developments here. Last time round when Shivakumar raised this demand, the SC/ST MLAs resisted it directly and indirectly, right? So their demand at that point in time appeared that, look here, if Siddaramaiah is going to be changed, then we want to stake the claim and it should not go to Shivakumar, right? They are not doing the same now. They are silent. On the other hand, Mr. Satish Jarkoli has been saying that we will stake our claim in 2028, right? Which means, there is something which has been settled, and there is something which still remains to be settled in the Congress scheme of things.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and
Thank
giving
you.
us your valuable insights. Thank you, Sourav.